It's
in the trucking industry, mate.
yeah, there's been a few, I think, that but again, I think it's
a few roads or a few lockouts.
There's lockouts, I think.
But I do think you're right about the language and how disappointing it was that when a company, for its own survival, for when it had no alternatives but to do this dramatic action of a lockout, because we don't take it lightly, to have to do a lockout on ground the airline and the implications that had for our employees, for our customers. It was something, as I said, we don't take lightly. But we did it as a consequence of the union action, and we did it as a consequence of the union saying this was going to last another year and that they're going to have 48-hour stoppages. The unions would have done it anyway, or were doing it to us. We cancelled over 800 flights, I think, because of the union action. We delayed another 350 more flights. 70,000 people impacted onto it. There was no condemnation of the unions saying that they were rogue unions. And their action was more detrimental to where we stand. And I don't think it helps the debate in this country when you've got a very tough industrial relations environment and where companies have no alternative but to take the action they have to in order to ensure the survival of their companies. And as I said at the time, the easiest thing for me to do would have been to give in to the unions. But I know, and that wouldn't have been a problem probably on my watch as CEO of Qantas, but we had to stand up because we had to ensure that Qantas is around for the next 90 years, and conceding to those outrageous union demands would have resulted in this company not being viable into the future, and I had no alternative but to do what I had to do.
Right, can I, as I understand, last time there were 3 unions with whom you were in dispute with. The engineers is now settled. I understand the pilots are off to the High Court, is it? Federal Court?
Yeah, the pilots have...
and they're appealing that, so we'll have to await the decision of the courts on that one. So can we move to the Transport Workers Union?
Before we do, sorry, Senator Best, can I declare an interest? Yeah. I'm a member of the Transport Workers Union.
Yeah.
We would never have guessed from the last hearings, but there you go. We would never have guessed.
If you've forgotten, I'll remind you as many times as you like. I'm proudly a member of the Transport Workers Union. There you go.
Right. Does the Transport Workers Union cover the cabin crew?
No, it doesn't.
Right, all right, thank you for that. I do want to move on to the cabin crew issue, and that is about the commingled crews. Example, Australians and Thais on the same flight, doing the same thing but allegedly on different wages. One, is that correct? And is that a standard practice across the industry internationally?
It's probably worth clarifying. We do, as I understand it, the TWU are not party to the Jetstar cabin crew agreements in Australia, but as I understand, they do have some members in the Jetstar cabin crew workforce. And yes, we do have, like all international airlines, we use a variety of labour and basing of staff to mount our international services. So we will have some crew out of Singapore, some out of Thailand, some out of New Zealand, some out of Australia to mount our operations. But still, despite Jetstar growing to 3,000 flights a week and 2/3 of those flights operating outside of Australia, we still employ 2/3 of our cabin crew still inside Australia. And even for the cabin crew on the business that we're talking about in the Australian market, still 2/3 of the cabin crew are employed in Australia. So the lion's share of all of our staff are still employed in Australia, and all of the knowledge workers and where the IP is created are in Melbourne under Australian contracts.
And in relation to those that come from overseas, that other 1/3, are they, one would assume, paid less than Australian?
That is correct. They're paid, I think we talked about the statistics before, on average a Thai cabin crew member gets around $2,000 a month, and an Australian cabin crew member will be somewhere between $5,000 and $6,000 or $7,000 a month.
And how do you strike the rate of pay for those overseas cabin crew, and is it also related to the cost of living in those countries?
Absolutely. We set up rates of pay that are generous in each of the markets because we want to be an employer of choice. So for instance, in Thailand, our cabin crew are paid around 10 times the average salary, 17 times the minimum wage. and therefore we have a very, very low attrition rate in Thailand, and we have one of the, we put an ad out for cabin crew to give you a feel. We're looking for 100 cabin crew jobs in Japan at the moment. We've just had 10,000 applications. We're looking for 28 cadets that we're employing in Australia recently, and we got thousands and thousands of applications. These are well sought after jobs. We have very low attrition rates, and we attract some of the best talent into the business. And because the cost of living in Thailand is substantially lower, and you can imagine their peers with a salary that's 10 times the average, these people are fairly well off in their market and are well looked after in terms of when they work for Jetstar.
I understand Senator Williams has a quick supplement.
Just on that, those people, crew from Thailand, you pay them in Australian dollars?
No, we pay in Thai baht, so I've given you the conversion to Australian dollars.
So you're looking at about 60,000 Thai baht a month, 2,000 Australian dollars, around 30 Thai baht Australian dollars.
It's around that, yes. The exchange rate obviously moves all the time. But, yeah.
Exactly.
Are you a currency dealer?
Well, he's been everything else.
Well, I mean, that is a huge salary in Thailand, 60,000 Thai baht a month.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Chair.
Right, can I ask then, do they, whilst the wages differ, what about things such as hours of duty, fatigue regulations and other conditions? How does that compare?
No, that's something we talked about. I think Senator Xenophon asked a lot at the last hearing in November. And, the training standards are identical, the rostering practices are identical. We don't treat cabin crew that work on any of our services any differently based on where they're employed. In fact, talking about our training and fatigue risk management, which got a lot of discussion last time, we've had 12 external audits on our fatigue risk management over the last 12 months. We've done 150 internal audits on our safety management systems and practices. We've done 1,000 investigations. We've had 12,000 reports from staff. This is something that we take seriously and we're working constantly at.
Now, if the proposed legislation were to be implemented, there's been a suggestion that Qantas's viability would be seriously at stake. Can you indicate to us how many other airlines are actually genuine, private and profitable airlines and not under some sort of arrangement like in the United States or state-sponsored and subsidised, but like so many other airlines around the world?
Can't think of any.
Are profitable or?
Yes.
There's, I think,
Private and profitable.
Private and
when I say private, I mean genuinely private.
I think British Airways is now profitable again. Lufthansa will be profitable. Air France is losing a lot of money. Most of the European carriers are losing money. The North American carriers have turned the corner because they've gone into bankruptcy, Chapter 11, and it essentially, as you know, bankruptcy allows them to renegotiate all of their workplace agreements and their lease agreements. And Delta and United have turned the corner and are profitable again. American were losing money, but that is the only reason they had to declare bankruptcy. Air New Zealand overall, I think, is government owned, yes, so that doesn't apply. So there's very few in that category.
And that is what puts, if I might suggest, immense pressure on Qantas, because you cannot rely on the government handouts to keep you going, or Chapter 11 arrangements as it seems to be continuously arrived at in the United States for the airline sector.
I think it's absolutely right, Senator. There's a lot of distortion in our industries with state government's involvement, and as you said, Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which helps, and that makes our challenge even greater. But you do see on certain routes, like as I mentioned, the United States routes, even with that, we've seen Qantas turn the corner there, and Qantas go back into the services to LA as profitable. So we can manage and fight against, even with that extreme disadvantage. And we find it very difficult to do it against the Middle Eastern carriers and what's happening in Europe, and that's why we need to make the structural changes.
I mean, one of the interesting examples, which is a similar sort of cost structure to Australia, and as a partner of ours, so it's an interesting one that you can see around what can be done through restructuring business, as Japan Airlines. Now, they're obviously not operating from what would be regarded as a lower cost Asian labour market. They're operating from Japan with all of its cost structures and currency issues as well. And having gone through a special bankruptcy process that was set up by the Japanese government just specifically for JAL, they've been able to turn around the corner from losing $1 or $2 billion to making $1 billion straight out of bankruptcy. And that's an incredible turnaround when you think about the state of the global economy at the moment and going through that same process at the same time. And that's not changing their location or getting rid of all their Japanese heritage. That's about restructuring, driving productivity, restructuring their business, and the sort of thing that's open to someone going through bankruptcy.
Now, just one final question, if I may. Yes. Are you aware of the new workplace relations advisor in Mr. Shorten's office?
No, I'm not.
Are you not? I understand she may have worked for you during the dispute, but that'll be interesting to see. But that's more a comment rather than anything else. I understand Senator Heffernan on behalf of the Coalition had two more questions.
Well, that's just Senator. Can I comment on that, Senator? I just found out. Yeah, the person in question, I do believe, worked for us for 6 months. She was a temporary appointment from Freehills into Qantas on secondment to replace somebody that was on maternity leave. So it was a Freehills appointment that helped us with that.
Well, let's hope for some robustness out of Minister Shorten's office.
Awesome fans from these Freehill employees. Senator Heffernan, I've got Senator Xenophon has 15 minutes. So I've got about and 12 o'clock we're going to pull up on the dot, so I'm going to ask you to be brief.
The relationship between the regional, national and international divisions of Qantas, you say that one is dependent on the other. Yep. So that if for the simplification of the purposes that your international regional had to put up with this, the Act, and belly up, what would that do to your regional domestic?
It's a great question, Senator. We're very much worried about this because we think the whole combination of the Qantas domestic business, or frequent flyer business and international business have a relationship and support each other, that if you have a part of your business that is not viable, that you cannot support, and then it does have a detrimental impact on the other parts of it. We know for the corporate market, as an example, that if you're bidding for BHP work or Rio Tinto work, you have to offer not only a regional, domestic, but international network. It's very important for us to have that. But if the international network is losing over $200 million, it doesn't matter what you're making in domestic or in the regional networks, it's just not sustainable. And the real dilemma we get into is those figures that we talked about in terms of the fleet renewal. Because those numbers I usually relate it back to a person's own mortgage. If you were in a position where your income was $1,700 a week or a month, but you were spending on rent $2,500, you'd be extremely worried. You know that your income is not supporting your rent. That's where we are today. We're not covering our mortgage. We're in a position where we've got a $1.7 billion cash flow and a $2.5 billion requirement for new aircraft coming in each year. So there's two alternatives. We stop ordering aircraft, which we have the problem that Senator Gallagher was talking about, where the fleet gets aging, and our competitive position against the other carriers gets worse and worse because we don't have the fuel efficiency, we don't have the product. Or we get our profitability up to cover the cost of that fleet. And the profitability improvement is dependent on one division, because that's international. Because you can't make super profits on domestic without inviting in a large range of competitors who say this is a great market to go after. And we've seen Tiger, we've seen Impulse, we've seen Virgin, we've seen Compass 1 and Compass 2 whenever that's happened. So you can't have super profits on one part of your business. It means every part of your business has to perform. And because international isn't performing, it's threatening the renewal of our fleet, the economic performance of the entire group, and that's why there's an imperative for us to turn it around.
So the concept behind the bill of strengthening the conditions of international flight crew on your flights would directly impact on the regional.
It would, Senator, as we pointed out, I mean, the big issue for us is the different parts of the bill have different implications on us, but the different parts of the bill would have an immediate effect, the Qantas Sale Act amendments, would have immediate effect on applying conditions on Jetstar, which we believe forces us into Jetstar having an economic problem or us having to sell Jetstar. And that's the reality of what those conditions apply. Losing Jetstar from the group will lose future profitability because Jetstar is very